Hey guys, it's market update. The price action looks absolutely fantastic, to be honest. You can see we're just trying to test this resistance level right here, which is the all-time high. Real bull market, reaching and breaking through this into what I think would be probably the 120K level. Maybe we don't get it right now, maybe we reject again, but you can see what we've done in this bull market is these consolidation zones where you have a resistance price. You test it a couple of times, you reject away from it, break through. Done it here, and then we're doing it again. So look, maybe we reject off this one, but this whole level here of about 15-20%, right? From 80 up to 100 odd, this is the next waiting zone before another break to the upside. That's my base case, breaking to the upside. Just because of the way that everything is set up, which I'll go through in this video. You can also see here the RSI down at the bottom. It's showing us that we're actually trying to break out with some strength as well. So you can see a bottoming of the RSI here as we move down. Again, I think this is the level right here, this 101 level, because we come up to it, we try to break out, we reject, right? Too early. We come up to it again, reject it again. But now we've broken out. And we've tested this to the downside and actually turned this level into support now, or trying to at least. Now, we may reject again down, but the market is telling us that it is testing and testing. And there are buyers here that want Bitcoin. And so how do you do that in a bull market? You simply buy up resistance and you take it to the next level to incentivize the next set of people to sell. You can see the RSI is starting to turn as well, trying to set a higher low here. So the price action, like I said, looks absolutely fantastic. If you look at ETH as well, which has been flooded the whole entire cycle, it's in this insanely bullish descending wedge pattern right here, trying to break out of it again. You can see the RSI potentially bottoming coming up. Look, again, we may reject down, right? So it may not be the breakout zone, but things feel like the market wants to kind of reprice these assets to the upside as well. So yeah, the price action looks insane. If you do trade, check out the Bybit deposit bonus down below in the description, up to $30,000 deposit bonus via that link. Or if you can't trade on Bybit, Bybit's DEX is called Apex. You can get a permanent fee discount there as well. You can trade futures and spot on here directly from your crypto wallet as well. Links down below. My base case for this year is maybe a 50 to 150% move to the upside. Now, I may be totally wrong on that. We may go down this year, but everything is not really pointing towards that, right? Michael Saylor is just raising basically unlimited funds to buy Bitcoin, right? And the market has demand for it. So you can see that the market and TradFi has real demand for Bitcoin and they want to get into Bitcoin and buy it. So that demand is there. Then you have the central bank, which is nowhere near kind of the most dovish it can be, right? It could get way more dovish. And I actually think the bond market is pricing in slightly a hawkish scenario, which could easily flip dovish and make us have a next leg up. So everything is just really greatly placed, I think, right? You have great news flow, people wanting to buy Bitcoin. You can see objectively the demand is there and the central bank cycle is nowhere near a potential end. It doesn't look like they're just going to really go massively hawkish again. In fact, I would say the risk is that they come to dovish, which would push us higher. Gold's hitting the all-time highs. Enjoy the bull market while it lasts, because if we do get up to this top end, then unfortunately that is potentially when things will start rolling over again. But why do I say 50 to 150%? It's just this, right? Moving from this bull market into what an area where Bitcoin usually tops out at, which would be around 250K, something like that. Maybe it tops out earlier at 100, 150. Maybe it tops out a little bit later at 250. That is what I'm expecting. Now, I could be completely wrong, right? Because none of us can predict what will happen. But that is really what I'm trying to trade for. And it's the best that I can do. Now, you can see Glassnode here as well, really plotting the two sections of a bull market, which is the early bull and then the euphoric bull, which is, very, very good for price action, but also ultimately the end of the bull market. So that's when I have to get really cautious if we do come up here that, looking forward 6 to 12 months, it's maybe not as bullish as it is now, but look, we're still in a really bullish zone. So super happy as well. And I'm seeing the price action show that the market is willing to take us higher. And then all the fundamentals of, I just see real growth coming in, which is demand from TradFi, forcing money into this market, which everything's lining up. The biggest uncertainty for me, and it may be super positive short term, and it may put us into the next financial crisis, is the US, or Doge, right, trying to cut US spending. Now, I think this is good overall, because I personally don't want a big government. I want a small government and then the free market to do its thing, right? And so this is good news. I think it has to happen. But like I've said many times, if you cut spending from the government side, right, that reduces stimulus in the economy, which reduces inflation, which also reduces GDP. And when you have debt to GDP so high, that actually makes the debt ever more unpayable and you get into a huge financial crisis. And so there's a balancing act here, and it's very delicate, where if Doge wants to pull the government side out, you need a massive corresponding credit creation event in the private sector. Now, to be fair, that's what they're doing. You can see this is a post from Trump here. He's bashing the Fed, but the important bit here is that he's talking about credit creation. So he's saying, American manufacturing, I will do much more than stopping inflation. I will make our country financially and otherwise powerful again. And down here, Treasury is going to lead the effort to cut unnecessary regulation and will unleash lending for American people. Now, what does that mean? Why would a president say unleash lending? Why is that so important? It's because if you cut stimulus from the government side, you need credit creation from private commercial banks. What is credit creation? It is currency debasement. Credit creation of the fiat currency means creating the currency. It means, essentially creating debt, which you need the private sector to come in and say, hey, banks, we need you to create currency and give it to us because we have these ideas to grow manufacturing or grow the economy. So the banks need to create credit. So Trump is saying to the banks, create credit. Now that's good for risk assets, right? Because if you create credit, that means you create a kind of boom in, manufacturing and job creation. That's great. They have to do that because if they don't and just cut the government side, you create a drag on GDP, a drag on inflation, which makes the debt to GDP worse. So how this plays out, I do not know. I do not know if they can cut this much from government and also from the private sector encourage the exact same amount of credit creation and economic growth from the private side to make sure that GDP is still remaining high. This may come out in waves, right? We may get some big drawdowns when GDP seems to be dragging and everyone gets scared and says there's going to be a huge recession and the market drops, and Bitcoin can drop 20-30% easily on that, right? But then the other side is maybe the credit creation comes in waves as well. So that's the uncertainty for me, and I just don't know where we're going to lie out on this. I think it's generally pretty good because you have a president who's essentially saying, look, we need to grow GDP, and we're going to incentivize banks, we're going to deregulate them and create this huge credit creation boom, which, to be honest, means great news for GDP, great news for inflation, and great news for risk assets because currency debasement, pushing stimulus into markets. I don't know where we're going to come out on cutting the government and the private sector side. I hope it comes out positive, and I think generally, even if it doesn't, even if the credit creation doesn't match up and they do cut this government stimulus and you get a big drag on GDP short term, if the private sector doesn't step up, the central bank's going to step in and print the money because our system, our fiat currency system cannot have deflation. So that's why I'm in Bitcoin generally. But if you're trading shorter term, these things are the things you have to worry about. But generally, I think, pretty positive for this year at least. Whilst all of this works out, you're going to get some very positive news flow. So yeah, generally very positive for this year. We also need to look at money supply growth and inflation, and money supply growth looks pretty good. We have bounced from the lows, but we're not overheated, right? And so you want to be probably around the historical average, and we're not even there yet. So that, if we move up into this, that could be another leg up to the bull market for sure. It's only when money supply growth gets up here that you have to start thinking, wait, is the Fed going to try and draw this down? And so they usually do when it gets up here. But this means that, hey, if we can go a lot higher than this and still remain in the bull market, which is good news. The other thing is with inflation is that, especially for CPI, the rents index, which is a lagging part of the inflation index, is coming down and contributing potentially to a drag on inflation there, which is good news because if inflation comes down, the central bank gets a lot easier and that just lifts risk assets as well. So yeah, we're just looking pretty good now, barring any unfortunate event that may happen, which, like I said, you can't really trade for, but they do occur. And so, that's always a risk. But if you do trade, Bybit deposit bonus down below up to 30K. If you don't trade on Bybit, Apex, if you have a crypto wallet, you can trade directly from there. Permanent fee discount on Apex as well, but they don't blow. I'm James, it's Money G. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.